been juggling some of the injuries that you've had, and what have you seen from Jack since he's been back that allowed him to kind of go out and make some plays?
Yeah, there was just a churn, with that deal. We were extra precautious with Jack, but when you saw the churn, you kind of saw him hitting his elite speed. That's when we knew we were good to get him going, good to get him out there, and he felt great with it and was moving pretty good. So that excites us as an offensive staff, certainly.
With last year, it was back to the Boston College game. How much with maybe the lack of depth and speed at receiver did Jack see more attention than he did?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was easy to hone in on for us offensively and for them defensively. I think that's what's been nice, getting some of those pieces on the outside, kind of frees them up in the middle. So yeah, I think they were able to certainly take a look at it, see it, who we had out there. But they're a well-coached team. They adjusted just like we did, and we had those injuries with those guys last year, so able to get back to it.
That catch from Michael where he's kind of stumbling and rumbling downfield and gets a little space for him. Where do you think he's taken some steps this offseason?
Yeah, Michael's always been, and I don't use this term, as a knock on him, like athletically, because I do. I think he's an athletic dude, but he's just always so steady Eddie. Like nothing's too big, nothing's too low. He comes, he competes every day, he's detailed. So when you see a guy like that be able to catch one in space, make something of it, like not only fired up, right, but you're pumped up for the kid, just because he deserves some of that stuff. So it's good to see. He's not a one-trick pony. He's a threat in both run and pass, and he showed a little bit of it.
With him, Matt being
in terms of the blocking, run blocking, pass blocking, I know that's something you've talked about in the offseason.
Yeah.
Want to see stuff that just week one evaluation.
Yeah, I think week one, we were able to physically move the ball in the run game. Certainly, there was little things. Mike had wide hands. Jack ducked his head one time. There was a pass protection that Jack would love to have back. Certainly, but other than that, it was game one stuff that showed up, and that's what we talked about. Like, hey, the technique doesn't change just because the lights are on, right? And I think as you get going, you get a little bit more comfortable with that.
Coach, how does your room balance preparing for a week 2 game and also looking at a game that was so monumental as far as the impact it could have had going forward because it's BC and how it ended?
You talking about last year's game?
Correct.
Well, I think this, that happened last year. Certainly in the past, we're able to watch the film, which is cool. This is just another opportunity, right? We got 11 more opportunities guaranteed, right? We'd love to extend that, but this is the next opportunity in our way, right? So we're going to go attack it the same way we would attack any other game.
Yeah, thank you.
With Jack's injury, I feel like when someone's out for a fall camp, people think about like getting rhythm and sort of getting in the flow of things, but there's a learning component to that as well.
Yeah.
How do you get him to sort of catch up to the things he missed when he can't be in pads?
Yeah, we talked about it a bunch. We talked about knocking off the rust. You're kind of talking about getting back into the rhythm. And I was just, not that I'm not with every guy, but like every little movement he had, I was criticizing. Like, hey, your hand's too low right here. It might have been a centimeter too low. Like every little movement. And that's a little bit how we do it in the tight end room anyways. But it was one of those deals where you might let it slide because he's going to correct it himself. I wouldn't let it slide. And so it was a little bit of that, just getting him used to like where he was at the end of spring, which was where we wanted. He was moving, he was blocking his butt off, and getting him back to that phase.
How close is he in terms?
Yeah, I think he's right there. I feel really confident about him.
with Michael having his injury, and that can be tough coming back from a season-ending injury.
Yeah.
Are you consoling him kind of before the game, or do you kind of leave him alone, leave him in his own head?
You talking about from his injury last year?
Yeah, and then before
I try to
this
keep it
last
loose for those guys. Game day's for them,
Yeah.
So the day before the game, day of the game, that's for them. There's certainly some coaching points that are happening on the sideline, but before the game, it's they go through their checklist that they have, right? They got a tips and reminder sheet that they're going through, and you try to keep it loose for them so they don't get too tight. He's not a guy you need to console in any way, shape, or form. He's a pretty tough dude.
Fair check. You expect him back soon?
Yeah, he's trending the right way. He was able to get out there a little bit more in practice today. He got that injury bug, which is unfortunate for him in fall camp, but he was trending the right way right now.
The other guy that I wanted to ask about was Savory, because we heard a lot from
Yeah.
everybody else about his development. What's been maybe the things that you've seen in him, and how much is it when you have a guy that is maybe an athlete that specializes in another sport when they start focusing on football? What's the development curve on that?
Yeah, I think it's always fun. I was a hooper myself. I think that translates so well to football, basketball. You know, I think of like the tight ends in general. Like I think we got our Y's a little bit more Tim Duncan, right? I think our H's are a little bit more that slashing small forward. You know, I was gonna say LeBron James, but that guy's pretty freaky. But those kind of athletes, right? Both still long, right? One's maybe a little bit more powerful. So with Jaden, it was kind of easy to see kind of where he fit with that slashing three. And he has, you know, and I'd like to sit here and say like, hey, we recruited him, we knew exactly what we're getting. But yeah, he's been a pleasant surprise. That guy's going to have an awesome career. I'm excited for him. He just gets football. Sports speak to him. You know, you teach him something, he gets it. You know, it's pretty rare to have a guy like that.
Jake Cohen played a lot the other night.
Yeah.
Had some good moments. Seems like how much more comfortable is he in that role? We know last year we talked about him transitioning into it.
Yeah.
And you guys trying to figure out, you know, where he could be effective. Just a year later, where is he with that, and how much more trust, familiarity, all that type of stuff is there with him?
Jay's super dialed in. You know, that's what's fun with him. He's super dialed in. You know, it's a little bit different mentality of the position he's playing, but he's super dialed in. He's on, you know, what he needs to do. You know, the thing that's fun with him is that was probably his best game since he's been here at that position. So to be able to build off of that's really cool. You know, you see his package grow. You know, you see other things coming with it. But I'm excited for him just because I think that kid works his tail off. He's super detailed in how he does it. He wants to be good. He wants to be coached.
What are those things you feel like he's gotten better to get to this point where it's like, hey, we can
Just an overall concept of the big picture, right? Like this is why I'm hitting this side of the man, right? This is why, right, I'm stretching it at the point of attack. This is why I got to get downhill and clear the quarterback. He understands the why better.
Is he still one of one, or do you have if he went, you know, if you need another one?
Jackson McKaig's getting some reps there too, but we feel like we got some tight ends that can do it as well.
In terms of using fullback, I mean, you don't see it a lot anymore. It's kind of gone by the wayside, but how much does having that maybe help your tight ends in their block and knowing there's someone else back there? It's kind of a battering ram.
Yeah, I don't.
Or is it totally separate?
I think there's times where it helps them serve, where they can be more aggressive because they know they got somebody coming through that inside shoulder. But I think more than anything, what it does is it helps us give a different look for the defense. That's something they got to practice, right? Not a lot of teams are going against 21 personnel eye back. You know, when's the last time you guys saw eye back? I guess you see it a little bit more nowadays. But you know, I think it's just a different element. And when you get a guy that can do it, and we've had a couple guys in the past now, Jay, it's been pretty fun.
It takes a special kind of player to do that too, like the selflessness of it. I mean, how do you find a player who has what Jay has?
Well, I think Jay's a good example of he was a young guy a year ago that wanted to find a way on the bus, you know, and that was an opportunity to do it. He works his tail off on special teams too. So, you know, he had 11 snaps at fullback. I want to say he had around 15 or 16 on special teams. That's a pretty good game for a kid. And I think that's just kind of the attitude you got to have. Like, whatever I can do to help this team win, like I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it to my best ability.
Obviously, you were at Oregon State when sort of everything was sort of humming in a certain sense offensively. The tight ends were very productive. There's sort of needs there. With this group now, mostly guys that are returning. When you look down the line, do you feel like this season could be a step toward that position becoming sort of what it should be for this offense, or what you guys hope it will be? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, you know, I think ultimately for this offense, what we hope, myself and the tight end room, is we want to help this team win. That's the ultimate goal. Is it a day we're going to have 20 receptions and we win? Great. Is it a day we're going to have 3 receptions and win? Great. Like, we want to help this team. We want to help this team score one more point than the other team. That's our goal. Yeah, selfishly, would I like to see, you know, Jack get some more targets and catches? Absolutely. I would love nothing more for that kid because he works his tail off. But I don't want to do it and take away from scheme, take away from, you know, what some of these other guys can do to help us win. But believe me, I believe he can do it. I believe Mike can do it. BP, Jay, you go down the list. You know, we got a pretty good room that way.
Fair to say, I guess last year you felt like there was more meat on the bone at your position in terms of what they can provide to this offense in an ideal picture?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think we got, you know, getting BP up and running, I think that'll help. But I certainly think, you know, we got a couple guys that can help in the running pass.
We haven't talked to you since the spring, and you guys had that big run in June and July on recruiting. And I'm wondering, just kind of now that you're into year 2, kind of coordinate a lot of that stuff. What's the difference that maybe the staff has made in terms of those connections around the region?
Yeah, I think the big thing was sticking to the process of what we talked about, and we kind of foresaw the big summer coming, right? And it might be frustrating to fans at the time, to reporters at the time, what it looked like prior, but that's our process, and we don't, I think in terms of getting commitments, like you guys know as well as I do, these commitments, they're like, what does that mean? Like, a kid can play at 4 different schools in 5 years. Like I think more than anything, it's we want the right guy, right? We want the right people in this building. We're going to be around them for a long time. This is a long season, right? I met with the tight ends this morning at 7 a.m. I'm going to see them again at 5 p.m. tonight. I just spent 5 hours, you want to be around people you like, that are good players. So I think that's what we're looking for. We want people to be proud of what Michigan State football players are representing.
Does that take a little more time to identify that now? And you know what I mean? So if you aren't getting guys in February, March for that next class, that maybe you just get to know them a little better to make sure they want to be there.
I think too, and not to get all philosophical, I just think kids are changing, right? And you guys see it with social media, you guys are on it too. Kids are changing, and it's not the kid's fault, it's not the parents' fault, it's just what's around them, So you try to find those right kids, and generally you find it through the parents, whatever, how's mom, how's dad, it might not be mom and dad, how's grandma, right? How's their, their guardian, whatever it may be. You kind of try to find that circle of trust, and you can get a good beat off of that circle of trust pretty quick.
This may have been a wider thing, but we noticed your tight ends on Friday were wearing some sort of hat that I don't think any other position group had. What, do you know what that was? Was that a warm-ups?
They were wearing.
They had some sort of hat.
Like ball hats.
This is total fishing. I don't know if this was a thing or not.
I don't know. Michael came out in his Arizona Western boots. That's pretty much all I saw from when it came to outfits. I think Jack had a nice suit on. I don't know about the ball caps.
And they're out in warm-ups. Everybody else, just do rags or nothing. And
Yeah.
they're out there with ball hats, and I'm like,
You guys could probably give them a hard time for the ball cap. Ask Jack why he's wearing a ball cap. He might give you a good answer.
All right, you guys good?
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it, man.